right, everybody, welcome back to Stone and Clay episode 88. Today we have the lovely Mina Thomas Brett. Thank you for joining.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, Mina is someone I've known for a couple years, but have never really known very well.
Right.
Um, I've had a few of your siblings on the podcast, your brother-in-law. um,
Yes.
I, yeah, Mina is part of The King Will Come,
Hmm.
this ever expanding
Ever expanding.
Christian worship collective.
Hmm.
Um, and you're a solo artist. You do you have a YouTube channel with your husband, who
Yes.
we were going to have on the show soon. Um, Bretter together,
Better
Bretter
together.
together,
Yes.
because your last name is Brett.
Hmm.
Um, Talk to me a little bit about your your solo music. What's kind of the genre? What's the difference between kind of that creative part of your life and the King Will Come type of music?
Hmm. Well, the short answer is that I used to fancy myself a jazz singer
Mm-hmm.
because I love jazz music, and that's kind of what I lean towards more than anything else. But I like soul music too.
Mm-hmm.
I like old school R&B. So now I kind of just say I'm a nostalgia artist. I like old school music.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll cover Etta James, sometimes I'll cover Etta Jones, sometimes I'll
Mm-hmm.
cover Ella, Nat, whatever feels good to me. But I really just love old school music.
Yeah. So
So
so the music you produce, sometimes it comes out a little jazzy, sometimes a little R&B.
sometimes soul.
Yeah.
Like the next single I'm gonna release
What's a
is
good
more soul.
definition of soul music?
Old school soul is like Otis Redding, like
Yeah.
I'm releasing a cover, an Etta James cover, and she's known for really wailing, like
Yeah.
just like hitting the top of her lungs kind of
Yeah.
thing. So I can do that too,
Yeah.
and I just kind of decided that I'm not gonna limit what I do.
Yeah. Yeah,
If
that's
I can do
awesome.
it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I don't have the gifts I have so that I can hide them
Right.
or try to curate them in a way that makes me more palatable to other people.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just gonna do what I can as long as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing about art is like once you make it, once you create it, the rest is really out of your
Right.
hands.
It's not something that I can control. I can't control how people are going to receive
Yeah.
it. That's not even really my job,
Yeah.
which I mean, for an artist it's kind of scary,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but it's also liberating. Like as long as I release it,
Mm-hmm.
that's really all I can do. It's not my job to
Yeah.
worry about how people are gonna listen to it or when they listen to it or what device they listen to it on. Like it's literally not my job
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
After I've done my job, all I can do is continue working on the next thing.
Yeah. There's this writer I like, and someone was asking him in an interview like his what he thought about how his book was being received or whatever, and he said, "Once I come up with the characters, the rest is none of my business."
I like that.
Yeah.
None of my business.
Yeah. I I put it out there, I did my art, the
Mm-hmm.
rest is none of my business.
I like that.
Yeah.
None of my business is. Whew, if more people mind their own business, the world would be a lot nicer.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, this is a question that I love asking musicians. And I love music so much. Like that's how we got connected. I just am obsessed with being around artists and musicians, and my best friend is Spencer that's in King Will Come. Um, but I don't have any musical gifts myself, so I'm just on the listening side of things. And I understand a lot of the creative impetus and the creative journey, but
Mhm.
it's different as someone who doesn't really make any music. So my question is, for you personally, I have my own opinions, but help me understand why is music so powerful?
Mm. Music is powerful first, I think, because it was created by God,
Yeah.
because it's built on sound,
There's sound in everything.
right? And the first creature to ever utter a sound, if we can call him a creature, because he's the creator. So the first being to utter a sound was God. I mean, I can't even imagine what that must have been like for him to say, "Let there be light." What music must have been contained in that.
Yeah.
I went to school for jazz, but I took the preliminary courses that you're supposed to take if you're going to do a master's in music therapy.
hmm
And I was fascinated with music therapy because one of the things I learned about music is that music goes into a part of your brain that cannot be touched by anything else.
Oh, really?
It plays into you and it can't be ravaged by time or ailments or anything like that. My mother's grandmother, when she passed, she had dementia.
hmm
And it really just, it was so painful to me to think that when she went, she didn't even know who I was.
Yeah.
She didn't know I existed.
hmm
You know, she barely remembered her own daughter.
Yeah.
And that kind of started me on a path of like, how can we use music to help people? And when I was in my music therapy courses, I came across this video of an older man, and they were doing music therapy in a nursing home, and they were just doing some research and just trying to see how they could use music therapy to best help the patients. And one of the things that they had done was they had loaded up these iPods with music from the patient's younger years. And there was one guy who his ailment was specifically advanced, and he was basically a vegetable. Like, he just kind of sat in his chair all day, stared off into space, and just kind of would sometimes grunt every now and then or hum to himself, but he didn't speak really. He was pretty nonverbal and pretty unresponsive to any other stimuli. And they loaded up, I guess they must have consulted with his family as far as like what kind of music he loved to listen to and such. And they loaded up this iPod and they put these headphones on his head. And maybe mid song, you start seeing him like perk up. He's sitting around and he's starting to look and like notice things.
Yeah.
And he's suddenly very aware of his surroundings. And the next thing you know, he's like snapping his fingers and tapping his foot.
hmm
And after that, he starts singing the words to the song. And it just had such a profound effect on me because I'm like, music does that.
Yeah.
He suddenly remembered the songs that he grew up listening to, and he remembered the words.
hmm
And then what was really cool was that after the music was over and they removed the headphones, he was still lucid for a period.
Yeah.
And they were able to talk to him about the music that he had listened to and the memories that were attached to it.
Yeah.
And it's so it just kind of drove home for me the point that like music literally goes into your brain, and the place where it's stored can't be touched
Yeah.
by any outside
That kind of explains why,
entities.
yeah, you'll hear a song you haven't heard for 15 years and you'll just know all the words.
Right. And it's not just the words that come,
Yeah.
it's the memories that
Yeah.
come
hmm
with the song.
Like the first time you heard
The
it.
first time you heard it,
Yeah.
or who you used to listen to it with, or, you know, random factoids about the artist. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all this stuff comes just from the song. And I think music is powerful because it touches us on a level that nothing else really can. And I think every single being, humans and other beings as well, we all respond on a visceral level to the sound waves produced by music.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's, I mean, and honestly, Bryden gets really geeky about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like he talks about the frequency levels and the hertz and all the different things that go into making music good
Mhm.
music.
Yeah.
And why our bodies respond a certain way. But they've done so many different studies on like how music, certain kinds of music helps plants, and certain kinds of music makes water change formation, and how certain kinds of sound waves and music can in can affect the look of a how the crystals form in a snowflake, and all
Yeah.
kinds of
Yeah.
interesting things like that. So yeah, I would say that music is powerful because it's the only thing that can touch us on a level nothing else can.
Yeah.
And it has the ability to change even our bodies.
Right.
You know, like it shows up in our bodies too, which is really interesting.
Yeah. It's crazy how, to me, there's like two main parts of a song. There's like just the music and then the
Mhm.
words, right? And the words, that's what's obvious. Like, oh, that's why it's hitting me so hard because of the
Yeah.
lyrics. But to me, the music is a mystery. It's like, I don't know why this strum of the guitar feels good in my soul.
That's how I feel about Brahms. There's no music, there's no words to the music. And I'm a big lyrics
Yeah.
person. Like when I first hear a song,
Hmm.
first thing I want to know is what the lyrics are.
Yeah.
The first thing I'm listening to are the lyrics. My husband is a DJ, and so sometimes like he'll just be, going through new music to try and,
Hmm.
get new stuff for what he's doing, whatever events he's and going to work on and stuff like that. And sometimes he'll play a song and I'm like, do you hear those words? And he's
Yeah.
like, honestly, I wasn't even listening to the words.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah.
How you can be listening to a song and not hear the words. Because that's the thing about music with words, is that because it touches you on a level that nothing else can, and because it's going into a certain part of your brain that's basically like Fort Knox,
Yeah. Yeah.
you put that stuff in there and ain't no getting it out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm so cognizant about what I'm putting in
Hmm.
because I don't know when it's gonna it comes out when you least expect it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And some of the lyrics to this music, it's just like, did you hear what they said? Or music we grew up listening to, just like da, 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 and then you listen, like really listen to the words, and like, I didn't know that's what it
Right.
said.
Right.
Like, oh gosh, I forget the name of the group. It's Hanson.
Hmm.
Their song Mbop,
Yeah.
it's kind of resurfaced
Uh-huh.
recently, but like the words
Yeah.
are like, wow, those are
Right.
they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I just never noticed.
Yeah.
But the more obsessed with words in general I've become,
Hmm.
the more I pay attention to lyrics.
Yeah.
So I didn't really expect that music without words would affect me on the same level.
Hmm.
But I find that composers like Brahms, I remember one time I went to see the Boston Symphony with a friend of mine. She was a music teacher in Boston, well, in Massachusetts, and we went to see the Boston Symphony with her class. And I was sitting there, I'd never really listened to Brahms. And I was sitting there and I remember laughing, crying, being angry, all in the same concert.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, what is this?
Hmm.
Why is this collection of notes something that makes me cry?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is this collection of notes something that makes me want to like jump up and clap and like laugh
Hmm.
and just have a good time?
Yeah.
What is it about how we put sounds together
Hmm.
that can communicate and evoke human emotion the way it
Yeah.
does? It's just really, I mean, Brahms is probably one of the best examples of how someone can write human emotion without using
Yeah.
words.
But yeah, it's weird how also like certain humans' voices, their cadence or whatever,
Mm.
it becomes more attractive to you,
Yeah.
you know?
I feel like that about Yeba. She does so many weird, interesting things with her voice. And I'm like, how do you do that? It's like, whoa. She's got like a whole bunch of different instruments in
Yeah.
there, So interesting.
um, I want to hear a little bit more about, I know a little bit about the story about you and Bryden, how you guys met, and kind of your your journey of coming together. It's a very interesting one because obviously you guys are not only an interracial couple, which comes with its own unique dynamics, but you guys are of different denominations in the
Hmm.
Christian world, and you're both from very like I'll say intense denominations. Maybe intense is the wrong word, but
Intense is pretty accurate.
yeah, but very very established, nuanced religions, you know,
Hmm.
and but first I want to hear what was it about Bryden that was immediately just different for you that was like, oh, this is like a guy I could see myself dating, I could see myself falling in love with. When did that kind of hit for you?
We always uh, debate about like who said I love you first
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
that stuff. But he actually kept the whole first year of our text thread.
Mm,
He actually he gifted it to me for Christmas or something the year after we met. Anyway, we met December 25th on Christmas Day.
mm,
We met in Germany,
yeah.
in Treberg. It's this beautiful mountain town in the Black Forest, and they have this huge Christmas festival called the Treberger Weihnachtszauber.
Sounds about right.
And it's like this huge festival. Christmas is huge over there. Like they have all those little town squares, and
Yeah.
every town square has this Christmas
Hmm.
festival. And they have booths and stalls where they sell things that they've spent all year making. People come through and just walk through the town and buy their little things and eat the roasted nuts and have, desserts and
Yeah.
all the things.
Hmm.
And this particular festival has the booths and all the things, but it also has a festival that goes with it, like concerts and things. So they had
Hmm.
outdoor venues and indoor venues, and I was there with a gospel choir. I was on a like 6 country tour with
Yeah.
a gospel choir, and he was there singing with his family,
Hmm.
and we met backstage.
Yeah.
The first thing that I remember about him was actually his voice.
Mm.
When
Had
we
you heard him perform
first
first?
No, it wasn't even a singing voice. It was a
Oh,
speaking
okay,
voice.
yeah.
We had first walked into the place where we were going to change and get ready. And first of all, when you're traveling with a bunch of Americans and you hear other Americans speaking
Yeah,
English,
yeah.
it's like,
You perk up.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, Americans, because everybody speaks English, but it's really just different to
Yeah.
hear people, people with American accents, like, oh, there's Americans. So we walked in and I heard his voice, and it was a very fleeting thought, just like,
Mhm.
he sounds like he would be handsome.
He sounds like he could possibly be handsome.
Well,
Okay.
apparently there's science behind that. Like
Okay.
people who are good looking, their
Mhm.
voices have a certain confidence to them. And so it's communicated in even their voice. Like
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
tell by the way they speak. I didn't know that at the time,
Yeah.
but I was like, he sounds like he would be handsome. Don't know why I thought that. I got around the corner and he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I actually met his brother in law and his 2 nephews first
Hmm.
and said hi or whatever. We went into the room, and I really didn't have any designs on, I met him and I
Yeah.
met Garen at the same time. I met his entire family at the
Yeah.
same time. And he teased me for my phone case because I had like a Victoria's Secret phone case, and he
Okay.
was like messing with me about it and mess with me because I didn't have Facebook. He was trying to get in contact with me. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that that's what was going on. And he he's like, what kind of person doesn't have Facebook? Because I was just over Facebook at the time, so I
Yeah.
had deactivated my account. He's
Right.
like, Facebook? What kind of person doesn't have
Because
Facebook?
this was pre-Instagram.
It was right. Instagram had just started,
Okay.
and I had Instagram. And
Okay.
he
Yeah.
was like, oh, you have Instagram? I was like, yeah. Do you have Instagram? No. I said, well, what kind of person doesn't have Instagram? So we were back and forth about that. He literally started an Instagram because of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then even then it wasn't even his. It was like his band's Instagram, and he would
Hmm.
like comment on my stuff as the band. It was so weird. Um, but yeah, we met and it was just kind of like cool. I gave my number to him and to Garen
Hmm.
because it was like, oh, we're gonna write songs together or something, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
We were in a group text for like two text messages, and then he finally just texted me like
Yeah.
off to the side, like, hey, you know, and we texted back and forth until the new year, and then he asked me if he could call me, and you know, that was kind of the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah.
Um,
So you guys were long distance for a while.
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
4.5, 5 years.
So how often on average would you see each other?
We would see each other on average every couple months.
Okay.
Like he would come to me or I would go to him.
Uh,
Um, I, I think it was 2016. I started working at Sight and Sound. I got a job at Sight and Sound in Branson.
mhm.
So I was living there for about 4 months. And then I moved to Pennsylvania. So we were back to
Okay.
long
Yeah.
distance. And I lived in Pennsylvania for 2 years working at Sight and Sound because they have two different locations. And then from there, we just, I don't know. After I left Lancaster, I moved back to Branson because by then we knew we were getting
Oh,
married.
you were in Amish country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amish country. There's some cool things about Amish country. There are some not cool things about Amish country, like poop in the streets
Right.
because of the horses. But yeah, I had a great time when I lived there. It was wonderful. But Brighton Brighton just was really good. You asked me how knew like this would be a great guy
Hmm.
to date or whatever. Like honestly, when we first met, I didn't know that he liked me.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had no idea. I
Yeah.
thought, well, I don't ever really know when white guys like me.
White guys.
I was just like, I always thought they were just being nice to me. You know what I
Is that
mean?
is that because you don't expect white guys to approach you, or
Partially.
because black guys are more like aggressive?
I think it's a combination of the
Okay.
two.
Yeah, yeah.
Because white guys just have this nice, like, oh yeah, you know, like it's just hard to tell when, for me, it was hard to tell when they liked me because it wasn't something I really grew up with.
Mm.
I grew up where I grew up, where I lived, especially in high school and in those like years when guys started noticing me kind of thing. It was like one block in any direction was the hood.
Yeah.
I lived right next to the hospital, so it was nice and genteel and everything, but
Yeah. Hood adjacent.
hood adjacent.
Yeah.
I think my sister must have said that to you or somebody. Did somebody say that to you?
I don't
Or is
know.
that because I
I
literally say that all the
I
time?
no. I grew up in a hood adjacent
You grew up
neighborhood,
hood
so
adjacent? Okay, so you understand. I grew up hood adjacent. And so like, you know, I was very free about where I walked, you know.
Mm.
People weren't aggressive or anything, but guys were very vocal
Yeah.
about, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't no leaving it to the imagination or I had to guess. If you liked me, everybody on the block knew you liked me
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
of situation.
Yeah.
And so like I was walking down the street all the time and guys would say things like, hey, what's up, shorty? Like, you know, stuff like that. And so that's what I was used
Right.
to.
I've never called anyone a shorty.
You didn't know you're tall enough that you could call plenty of people shorty.
It's true.
Yeah. So I wasn't
I
used
would
to
love
the
to call
like
somebody a shorty, but I just don't feel comfortable. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a nice visual. um yeah, I was not at all versed in how he would approach
Yeah.
someone he
Yeah.
liked
Yeah.
or you know what I mean. So I just
You're
thought he was being
you're
nice
just
to
like, oh,
me.
this is a sweet
It's like, oh,
kid.
we're gonna write music and
Yeah.
you know, I had no idea.
Had you had any experience going out with white guys at all, or not
I
really?
didn't really date in high
Yeah.
school. I had a couple of guys that I really liked and that really liked me, but I just didn't feel at liberty to date. And I also was like, I was a super church girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of scared to
Yeah.
date. And so,
So did you start dating in college more?
yeah, I think my first real boyfriend was in college.
Yeah.
And there were things I liked about it and things I didn't,
Sure.
you know? And I didn't have like a ton of relationships, but the ones that I did were serious enough that I knew what I didn't want and
Yeah.
didn't like, and
Right.
you know what I mean? By the time I did meet Bryden, he didn't play games
Hmm.
was something that I noticed about
Okay.
him.
Yeah.
He didn't play games with me. It wasn't like,
Like, this is weird. He likes me and he just acts like he likes me.
right. He didn't play games with me. Even before I knew that he liked me, he
Mhm.
didn't play games.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the culture, the dating culture has always been like, especially once cell phones were introduced, it's like, well, you don't call them right away. You know, you wait for, you know, or
Yeah.
you don't text right away. You wait for a certain
There's some
indeterminate period of time.
calculated apathy.
Yeah. And it's like, he didn't do that.
Yeah.
He just texted me, and he would text me every time he felt like texting me
Right.
because that was how he was feeling.
Yeah.
It wasn't a like hard to get type of situation, or, you know, just being too cool or whatever. I grew up with a lot of cool guys,
Yeah.
guys who were real cool, you
Yeah.
know, had to play it cool. And the fact that he wasn't too cool to act like an idiot to make me laugh,
Yeah.
or he wasn't too cool to tell me how he was feeling. He wasn't too cool to tell me that he didn't know something
Mhm.
instead of pretending that he did know
Yeah.
just because he felt like it would make him less than to
Which
not
is
know
hard
something.
for a lot of really smart people.
He's
Because
very
Bryden is
smart.
very smart,
hmm
but a lot of very smart people have a really hard time in
Saying they
in
don't know
any
something.
situation being like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. He was just a breath of fresh air as far as communication was
Yeah.
concerned. One thing I noticed about him is that at the end of all of his texts, you know how you could have like a little message at the end of your
A
texts?
little signature.
Yeah, like a little signature. His was Philippians 4:13.
Okay.
And I was like, oh. And at first I thought he was just adding it to every text, and then I realized it was a text signature. I was like,
Okay.
this
Yeah.
guy really likes scriptures.
He really likes Philippians.
And I noticed that he could just recall scripture like this
Mhm.
in our conversations. And it was a gradual, not slow, but it
Mhm.
was a gradual buildup of like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
Our first FaceTime call was 8 hours long.
That's that's good. That's
He wasn't putting on or trying to be anything that he wasn't. He was just being himself.
yeah.
And being interested in me.
Mhm.
And
Heaven forbid.
right. It's cool to be interested in people and act like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just so different from what I was used to.
Hmm.
Because I knew I had been in enough relationships to know how guys tend to act when they do like someone.
Yeah.
But one thing that I had experienced a lot was people who didn't want to be seen with me,
Hmm.
or people who didn't want our relationship to be something that was obvious to people
Hmm.
on the outside.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, what's wrong with you? Because I know I'm fine. If you
Yeah.
don't want to be seen with me, that's your problem.
That's a
You know,
issue.
like
Yeah.
that's a you problem. It ain't me. But it still kind of chips away at your self-confidence
Yeah.
to be in multiple situations where people are like, yeah, well, you know, let's not hold hands, or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it was just weird. And he just wasn't like that
Right.
at all. And we had lots and lots of deep conversations, which is really all I'm capable of. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
After like 5, you know, exchanges about the weather and
Mhm.
such, I'm just like, so what's really going on in your heart? You know what I mean? What's going on in your mind? What do you like? I don't
Yeah.
do surface very well. And he was right there with me. Like,
Mhm.
he didn't bat an eye.
Yeah.
And I now that I think about it, I did a lot of testing, like, just to see, you know what I mean? Things that I had done to other guys that made them freak out. And he was like, oh, that's cool. You know, one time I asked him, our first official date was in Nashville. He flew me to Nashville, and then he drove from Branson to Nashville and picked me up at the
Oh,
airport.
it's a chill first date.
Right. So he knew I like country music.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, let's go to Nashville. And we went to Nashville. We explored. We went to the Bluebird. We stood outside because they, like, it was, you know, it's tiny. Bluebird is so tiny. And we stood outside because we couldn't get in.
Hmm.
And we were just like, well, we tried. We ended up like dancing in the parking lot together.
Yeah.
And when we were in Nashville, we were just like walking around downtown, and I just turned to him and I said, how do you feel if I wanted to cut all my hair off? And he was like, well, how short are we talking? And And he's like, wait, I don't care. Like, it's your hair.
Yeah.
You cut it if you want to. And I was like, good answer.
Yeah.
Because I'd had an ex who flipped out on me if I trimmed my hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just like one of those things that just felt so controlling to me. So when I asked him and he had that response, it was just like, And so I realized, in retrospect, that I had done that so many times that I was just like seeing how he would react,
Yeah. Seeing if he's scared
and he
easily.
always passed with flying colors because I always joke and tell him, like, I need to see your barcode. Like, he's an alien or clone or something. Like, he's just not normal or real. But I wouldn't say he's perfect. Obviously, he is really human. Although sometimes he makes me wonder because he reads my mind and all kinds of stuff like that. Like, we're in sync in ways that I have never experienced with another human, except for like my sister or my best friend.
Right.
And so the fact that it exists in male form is like wild to me. But he's perfect for me. Not perfect, but perfect for me.
Right.
And yes, we come from very different backgrounds, not just because he's white and I'm black, but I grew up apostolic Pentecostal. And there's just a lot of things about that that are very strict, very stringent. And what did you say? Intense?
Intense, yeah.
Intense is a good word.
Yeah.
And he's LDS.
Right.
And that was at least part of the reason why we didn't get married sooner. Because we needed to, part of it was getting over our own fear of what people in our denominations would think and all the different things, but also just wanted to make sure that we were in the will of God.
Yeah.
And one thing that the Lord has revealed to us multiple times is that we're bridge builders. He never ordained for there to be denominations.
Yeah.
He doesn't want us to be separated. We do that.
Yeah.
And the way that he's been leading us is just to like build bridges of love and understanding and community in the hope that it will lead to unity.
Yeah.
So that we can bring the kingdom of heaven closer. We can build the kingdom of heaven on earth.
Yeah, totally.
And it's been quite a ride so far. But I never would have expected this is what I'd be doing.
Yeah.
This is the life I'd be living. We look at each other all the time like, we live in Utah, especially this past week.
Yeah, because you just barely moved to Utah, right?
We just moved here not a month ago. It's been like 3 weeks, and we haven't been here a lot because as soon as we got here, we hit the ground running. Like, just took off, just going somewhere all the time, doing something all the time. Like, it gets wild. But yeah, we look at each other and we're like, we live in Utah. Or we look at each other and we're like, we're married.
Yeah.
We're married.
Like, how did we actually make it this far?
We're married and we have a kid.
Yeah.
In August will be 5 years since we got married.
Wow.
That time has flown.
Yeah. What do you love most about Bryden?
Wait, physically or?
Sure. You can hit me with both.
Physically, I really love his eyes. There's a unique shade of blue that I really love. And he's got like flecks of gold in there and always seems like my own personal blue sky.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I love his eyes. I love his build. I like the way his clothes fit him. It's a weird thing, but I just like the way he's built. Something weird, I like the way he chews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it just a cute little chew? What is it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is it especially
food
masculine?
Around in his mouth. It's not especially. I don't know if it's especially masculine. I wouldn't say that he's like hyper masculine or anything like that, but I like the way he chews. I pay attention a lot to people's eyes and their mouths.
Yeah.
I feel like people say, eyes are the windows to the soul. And the mouth is also a gateway.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Yeah.
So I always pay attention to people's eyes and their mouths.
Mm.
And
That's why I have a
his.
mustache. You can't see as much.
That's not true. You just made that up. You can't see my mouth as much. That's funny. Yeah, so physically, I love those things. I like the color of his hair. It's an odd, like blonde with a little red in it.
Yeah.
Lately, there's some gray in there. He hates that. But yeah, I like so many things about him. But the thing I love most about him is that he's a man after God's heart.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the thing I love most about him. Because everything else he is flows from that.
Mm-hmm.
The way he loves me, the way he loves our son, the way he takes care of us and everyone else he can
Yeah.
around us, the way he makes people feel seen. He's so good at making people feel seen.
Yeah.
One time we were at Moe's getting burrito bowls, and this man behind the counter, by the end of, that line to get a burrito bowl ain't that long. By the
Yeah.
end of the line, he's telling Bryden how much money he makes, how much money he pays in child support, how often he gets visitation with his son
Yeah.
from knowing him for 3 seconds.
Right.
But he's just got this gift that makes people feel so comfortable with him
Yeah.
so quickly. He has this ability to laser focus on you and make you feel like you're the only person in the
Yeah.
room,
Yeah, he's really present.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like he radiates love. You feel like, even though I don't really know this guy, he probably loves me, and it's not creepy at all.
Yeah.
It's like super, like, it's so beautiful.
Right. Yeah.
I remember the first time I realized that he didn't just do that for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of disappointing because I was like, what?
Like, wait, this isn't
I'm not
just
special.
Yeah.
But I always call him the mayor of every room he walks into, because he's just got that ability to make every person feel like they are the most important in the moment. And yeah, that all flows from his heart for God.
Yeah.
For his heart to love God, and it makes him love people.
Yeah. So what do you love most about yourself? It's a harder question.
Ooh. What do I love most about myself? Probably my heart for God.
Yeah.
My desire to get closer to the Lord, no matter what.
Yeah.
To be close enough to his light to catch fire.
Yeah.
And let that fire burn out the things in me that aren't actually mine.
Yeah.
That don't belong to me.
Right.
I think a lot of people are afraid of the aspect of God that makes him a consuming fire.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't want to burn.
Yeah.
I saw this quote that said, "Don't be afraid of the fire. It will only burn what you are not."
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of times the fear in drawing closer to the Lord is not even ours. It belongs to the things that have attached themselves to us.
Yeah.
That know that if we get closer, they'll burn off.
Yeah. I heard this interesting quote by, have you ever listened to or read any Jordan Peterson?
I don't think so.
So, he's a very outspoken, like, psychologist, and he talks about a lot of different things, but he does a lot of, like, biblical analysis. Mm-hmm. He'll talk a lot about Genesis and Exodus and a lot of allegories, but he's very kind of coy about his own beliefs. And because he's not like a Christian like influencer or anything like that. He's just trying to discover truth and talk about truth. And somebody asked him if he believed in Jesus Christ. And he said, he starts tearing up, first of all, and then he goes, "I'm terrified that he might exist." And I thought that was an interesting way of putting it,
Wow.
because basically he's like, he's like, I say terrified because of the implications of what that would mean if he does exist,
Hmm.
And so because that's such a terrifying possibility, I'm going to live as if he did exist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's very interesting to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, there are aspects of God that are terrifying,
Sure. Yeah.
right? But I think part of that, like I said, it doesn't even really belong to us. It's the stuff attached to us, the barnacles,
Yeah.
you know, the leeches that over time have just, they've been there so long that we think they're part of
Yeah.
us, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when we realize that we come from that. I don't know, it's just, I'm I'm obsessed with knowing more about, specifically about scripture. Like, I love words. I
Mm-hmm.
always have.
Yeah.
I used to read the dictionary when I was a kid. I was a weird kid now that I think about it. But, who wasn't, right?
Yeah.
I loved the dictionary, the thesaurus. Like, I was just always trying to learn more words,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to expand my lexicon. I didn't even know why I liked it. I just
Yeah.
did. And then I kind of got obsessed with archaeology for a little while, and just history and understanding how things happened in the past and how that shapes us now, and what about the past is present in the present. And then I started really getting into scripture, specifically the original language in Hebrew.
Mm.
And that's that's one of the things I like about myself, is how obsessed I am with understanding this language,
Yeah.
specifically because it helps me understand God more.
Yeah.
Hebrew as a language didn't really exist till it was written down. It
Mm-hmm.
was spoken by this specific family, this people group, this Semitic language that they spoke,
Yeah.
but nobody ever really wrote it down until Moses did,
Mm-hmm.
when he wrote the Torah. And I don't know, once I started studying it, it just became this thing for me that I've always got to know, like, what does that word mean
Yeah.
originally?
Yeah.
And I think it started when I was younger. It's just so, maybe it's just my need to know,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Your deep curiosity and
I
your
like that. I like my deep
yeah.
curiosity.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting that in words for me.
Good, good, good. Rewinding a little bit, what was it like introducing your family to a white guy? Was that a bit of a like, obviously a culture shock for him, but was it a little bit of like just a weird dynamic that you were nervous about, or was it all pretty natural?
Well, I told you we spent a lot of time talking. Our
Mm-hmm.
first FaceTime call was 8 hours, and they didn't really get shorter from there,
Yeah.
And my family is very tight knit.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would come into the room while
Yeah.
I was on these calls and, talk to him and be
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? And, like, especially my mom, she's very interested in getting to know this person.
Yeah.
And my sister and my brothers started noticing how he made me light up. And so they were noticing,
Mm-hmm.
the things that he would do.
Yeah.
If I ever went to visit him, he paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
If, he came, well, before he met my family, I had been to see him a couple of times,
Yeah.
but he hadn't been to New York yet. And the first time he came to New York, it was just like, I felt this anticipation, but I just knew that they were going to like him,
Mm-hmm.
because so many of them already did from knowing him
Yeah.
online. But I knew my mom would like him because they already had kind of a rapport, but it was my dad. He was the like the jury's out,
Yeah, he was the
until
gatekeeper.
exactly. He Everybody's just kind of like watching him out of the corner of our eyes to see like how he reacted to
Mm.
Bryden. And Bryden is one of those people, like, if you don't like him, he's not the problem, it's you.
Yeah, yeah.
So so I was just wondering, like, how my dad would react to him.
Mm.
I wasn't really worried about anybody else.
Yeah.
It was specifically my dad and also my sister, but she was already talking to him and stuff online when we would be on FaceTime and stuff. So it wasn't as much of a huge deal.
Yeah.
But it was my dad, for sure, my dad,
Mhm.
that I was kind of just like, oh, I hope he likes him. The first time he came to visit, my dad, we lived near an Air Force base.
Mhm.
My family lives near an Air Force base, and my dad loves like the older airplanes, and so they would do air shows.
Yeah.
And when Bryden was there the first time, they went to an air show. He took all the guys to this air show,
Mhm.
and Bryden pretty much didn't text me or call me like the entire time they were at this air show.
Yeah.
So I was getting like intel from my brothers. One of my brothers sent me a video and was like, why does this guy walk like our dad? I was like, this is weird. He said, they walk exactly. It was Sean. He
Yeah.
texted me. He's like, why do Bryden and Daddy walk the same? I was like, I don't know. That is weird. And so initially the family was a little skeptical,
Mhm.
but he was nicer to me than any guy that I've
Yeah.
dated. So
And
they
they
appreciated
saw
that.
how you lit up and everything. Yeah.
They saw how happy he made me, and he was respectful and he was kind, and he did what he always does with people, and he made them feel seen too.
Yeah.
So it was great for him to be around them and for him to see where I come from and start understanding my family the way I had already started understanding his, because I met them all at the same time. And one of the things that he said about my family is like, they're kind of like the Black Bretts. Like, they're all just talented, all musical. They all like, so our families are,
Yeah, you guys come from two crazy families.
yeah. The King Will Come is basically made up of our families.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool. It was a little nerve-wracking
Yeah.
in the beginning, but it was really cool for us to observe each other's lives and families, and for him to see New York and see specifically the town where I grew up,
Yeah.
see that place and see where I came from, and understand those things. Some things are nuanced, so nuanced that you can't really understand them until you experience them. And so it was cool for him to come to church with me and experience that as well. And it was dissonant for him in a lot of ways because he had never been to a Pentecostal church. He
Yeah.
didn't understand
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that was going on, but I think it was transformational for both of us to kind of build that little rope bridge at first.
Yeah.
Test the waters kind of situation.
Right.
It was the first time was a lot of things.
What have you are there some things you've discovered, like as you got more serious with him, or as you got married and got more immersed in like just white culture? Are there some things that you're like, whoa, I didn't know white people did that, or like I didn't know like this is just a black thing, like, you know what I mean?
Ah, hmm. I don't know. Because at the end of the day, people are people, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's
So
just cultural stuff a lot of times.
culturally, well, I don't know. My family on my mom's side is kind of like the United Nations. So there's white people, there's Spanish people, there's,
Yeah.
so one of my godmothers is white,
Hmm.
and the other one is half white. So I wasn't really in the whole culture shock thing, you
Yeah.
know. I experienced a lot of, like, my best friend in elementary school, she was white.
Yeah.
I was around white people a lot, probably more than he was around black
Yeah.
people. So
Maybe a better question for him.
it might be. You can save that one. I don't know. What one thing that I didn't know is that some white folk don't use washcloths.
For
That's like a thing that's been like going around on social media,
yeah.
black social media. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, white people don't use washcloths. What do y'all use? How do you exfoliate the dead skin? You know, and so I didn't know that was a thing. I thought everybody used washcloths, and obviously that's not exclusive to all
Yeah.
white people or
Sure.
all
Sure.
black people
Yeah. Yeah.
because you know. But yeah,
Well, we were
it's not
talking
even
about
like,
before the show, like how he doesn't really use lotion.
oh yeah, that was surprising to me. He's like, well, I don't use lotion. I was like, you don't? He's like, no. I said,
Like, how do you survive?
what? Because in my world, you know, that's how you keep from getting ashy. That's how you keep from getting dry. So I was
You're
just,
just going through lotion at the house.
well, you know, you got to buy your lotion every, you know what I'm saying? It didn't dawn on me that it was like specifically a white male thing not to use lotion,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? Because all the people in the commercials for lotion are white. So I was like, well, obviously they marketing to y'all.
Yeah.
So you have to be using it.
Right.
No, it's probably just white women that's using the lotion because they understand that
Well, women tend to care more
hydration.
about their skin and
That's
stuff.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm
I
telling you,
own, there's some lotion
you
somewhere
own
in my home.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, your hands are all soft and everything. You don't need lotion, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe your body just makes just enough moisture where you don't really
It,
need
it
it.
does. I told you I'm a desert dweller.
Yes,
Yeah.
mine don't make that much apparently. Okay, because especially my legs in this climate,
Yeah.
we need lotion. We need it.
I have this quote I wanted to read to you and wanted to get your
Okay.
thoughts on it. So, to me, it's essentially a quote about prayer, but it's also kind of how related is art to prayer, and how related is a creative act to prayer, right? So it's by W.H. Auden, and he said, to pray is to pay attention to something or someone other than oneself. Whenever a man so concentrates his attention on a landscape, a poem, a geometrical problem, or the true God, that he completely forgets his own ego and desires, he is praying.
Interesting. It sparks so many things. I like that. Of course, because this is where my brain goes for everything. I can think of two Jewish words for prayer. One of them is, well, they pronounce it Davin, but it's my son's name, David.
Okay, yeah.
And the other one is Tefillah. Tefillah is Hebrew, and I think Davin is more Yiddish. I'm not sure. But those two words, when I was setting out to understand what prayer meant biblically, those were the two words that I encountered the most. And tefillah is it means kind of to make this like umbilical cord like connection to God.
Okay, yeah. A tether.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through which he feeds you all of the spiritual nutrients that you need. That tether charges you and keeps you from getting dry.
Yeah.
And strengthens your connection with heaven and all the things. So tefillah is like this deep from your gut communication with God. Whether that is through words or through, like the scripture says, through groanings which cannot be uttered. Sometimes you don't have the words to say, and
Yeah, I've had
the
some of those
scripture,
groanings.
listen, I've had plenty of those, especially recently. The scripture says that the Spirit makes intercession for us with groanings which can't be uttered. And so when you have that tefillah, that connection with the Lord, even if you can't speak, your needs are heard and understood.
Hmm.
I like the idea that the actions that we take, especially in creativity, can be considered prayer,
Yeah.
because prayer in the barest of terms is just a conversation
Right.
with God.
Yeah.
Now, to call it a conversation stipulates that you actually have to listen for the other party in the conversation to talk back to you,
Yeah.
which a lot of times we don't do,
Yeah.
especially if we're feeling desperate. It's hard to hear in that state, in that elevated state. But I just I love the idea that our actions can be prayers too.
Yeah. They're kind of, I feel like a prayer and a piece of art are both offerings,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And whether it's just like, say you make a jazz song
Mm-hmm.
and maybe the lyrics are very light and jovial, um, but it's still an offering for people to hear and for people to conversate about and for people to understand. And
Mm-hmm.
and I love how it says it kind of rids you of your ego,
Yeah.
because how can you, almost with both, how can you pray earnestly with an ego,
Mm.
and how can you
Create like that with an
create with an
ego.
ego?
That's really good. That's a really good, like, that's an amazing train of thought, because there's there's definitely an amount, a large amount of humility that's necessary for you to put the art, whatever that art is that
Hmm.
you practice, out into the world for other people to see,
Yeah.
for other people to view, because it's nerve wracking,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean?
It's a part of your soul you're
Yeah.
exposing.
It's you, it's a piece of you,
Yeah.
you know? I think that that's what we are to God,
Hmm.
right? And so for us to take the time to do it back to him, toward him,
Yeah.
is beautiful. It's definitely worship. And
Right.
that's not something that I always understood. I thought that it had to be very overtly Christian in
Hmm.
order for something to be considered an offering to
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
you know? But when you look at the first offerings, it was just the best of what you had.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be like, it didn't have to have a cross on it, or you
Right.
know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
it was animals
Yeah.
and fruit and, you know, grain and things like that. Like, you can't look at grain and be like, well, that's not Christian. You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Like, and I
That's an
just
agnostic grain over there. Yeah.
that grain isn't holy enough. You know, like what? Like, so I had to reform the way I was seeing even the use of my gifts,
Hmm.
you know. I thought that I had to be saying Jesus in all my lyrics in
Right.
order
Right.
for the Lord to be glorified in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And the Lord was just kind of answering me with, hey, no, worship is what's in your heart when you're creating.
Yeah.
And so if you're creating to the best of your ability, and it's a way that you can fill the earth with love and light,
Yeah.
in a way, in a profound way, it's worship,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I think that's beautiful, because even for people that don't believe in God or don't have a grasp on what that means
Mm-hmm.
for them maybe that analog is love and light.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same thing they're offering. Maybe it's not in the form of a prayer, maybe it's more in what they create or how they express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It comes across through love and light in the same way.
I think there's a there's a scripture that says that the Lord planted eternity in men's hearts. And when I think of that, and he's eternity.
Yeah.
He planted a piece of himself in each of us. And I think the gifts that manifest in us and how we exercise them and how we develop them and how we use them is our built-in way to access God.
Yeah.
It's our key to the door that leads to heaven.
Right.
And that's why it's so painful for me when I see people burying the gifts that they were given.
Yeah.
When they treat them like a hobby instead of the very thing that makes their blood pump through their
Yeah.
veins, you
Yeah.
know. It just is so saddening to me because those gifts are meant to be expressed.
Yeah.
They demand it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they are not expressed, I think that's when sickness comes and depression comes and the things that keep us from moving forward, the blockages in our spirits and that the stuff that keeps us from becoming our best version of ourselves. I think that that's where that stuff comes from.
Don't you feel kind of icky when you're not like making music or creating anything?
Yeah.
And maybe you've gotten to a point where you're so good at just always creating, but I'm sure there's little,
Oh, there's plenty of
there's
pockets
little
when I'm like,
valleys when you're just, you're exhausted or distracted or whatever. And you're like, why do I just kind of feel bad?
Right. And then I like sing a song and then I'm like, oh, that was what it was.
Yeah.
I was not living in my purpose.
Yeah. You weren't
at
really
least part of my purpose.
Yeah, you weren't really being authentic to yourself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It feels dissonant to me to not be doing something creative.
Right.
Like I write poetry, I write just thoughts and ideas out because I don't want to forget them.
Yeah.
I write music. I also so you were talking about how you're not musical in any way or whatever. You're a listener.
Listen,
But
I'll sing in the car and in the shower.
okay.
Yeah.
I bet you probably can carry a tune in a bucket too. You're just around people who are musical all the time.
And I just, I never learned how to read music. I can't play any instruments,
I can't play any instruments either. This is the only one I play.
That's surprising,
what I tell
actually.
people, right?
Yeah. Were you just hiding in a corner when the rest of your family were becoming savants?
I'm the oldest, so
okay. It trickled down to them.
I think my savantism, my individual genius is probably just located somewhere else. Although I do think that I probably could learn an instrument if I wanted to.
Because you understand music well enough.
Yeah, and I went to school for music, so I understand chords and structure and that kind of stuff. I can teach someone a chord, I just can't play it myself. So in that instance, they say those who can't do teaching. That's true. In that instance,
right.
I don't play instruments, but I probably could. I've done lessons here and there. I think part of it is that I don't like the in between.
The learning curve.
I don't like it.
Right.
I don't feel like I ever had to do that with my voice.
Yeah.
So I just sing.
Yeah.
But like, I don't like the messy middle.
Yeah.
I don't like
it's messy.
Yeah. And that's probably why I never continued with things like I took piano lessons. I took guitar lessons.
Yeah.
They were required for my degree.
Right.
But I don't like the in-between area where you're not great and then you are great.
Yeah.
That in between there, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I don't have patience for it.
Right.
So that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
I need to get some patience for that. I do intend to learn to at least like play chords for myself when I'm singing and to like chart my songs better.
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Wait, I think we got derailed for a second. You were saying like how I don't feel especially musical.
Yeah, you were saying you don't feel especially musical, and it just made me think that it takes talent to listen
Mm,
to be an intelligent listener,
yeah,
to know what you're
to have good
hearing,
taste.
to have good taste in
Yeah,
music, because there are plenty of people who don't.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And so that shows a bit of your aptitude, that you know what's good.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what isn't.
Right.
That that's not a just thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think part of it is me just being obsessed with art in general.
mm,
You know, is this good art? Is this something I want to
that's
consume?
hard for me
What?
to. Art's so subjective, like specifically like the medium of art. Like I,
Right. But to me it's and obviously it's still at the end of the day your opinion and it's a taste issue. But
mm-hmm.
to me it's like if it's moving, it's good art, you know?
I like that.
If it makes you you know when you go and watch a movie and you sometimes you can't quite put your finger on it, but you're just like that movie just makes me want to live better. It makes me want to appreciate things more. It makes me want to
Mm-hmm.
tell somebody I love them. I don't know why. Like it was just like a rom-com or it was
Mm-hmm.
just a movie about some coming of age story, but I don't know, some things just touch you and you're like, I don't know, that was good art.
I like that. If it's moving, it's good art.
And what's moving to you maybe isn't moving to somebody else, you
True.
know. But
I love Pride and Prejudice.
yeah,
A lot of people don't.
yeah.
A lot of male type humanoids don't. But it's like one of my favorite bodies of work.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
Yeah.
So much angst.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't need the angst, but I can deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do with depressive thoughts?
What do I do with depressive? I cast them down.
How do you do that?
I'm a listen. First, churchy. Let's all get out. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
you just have to deal with that.
Yeah.
But one thing, I mean, I know that affirmations are a big deal, and speaking the right things are a big deal. And while that works to a degree, I find nothing works more than scripture for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love 2 Corinthians 10:5 because it's like a prescription for thoughts that shouldn't be in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. If a thought enters my brain that I know isn't from me, isn't from God, isn't positive,
Yeah.
I try to catch it
Yeah. You try to
and
in that
subdue
moment
it.
realize this is a
Yeah.
bad thing.
One thing my mom always says is that you can't fight a thought with a thought.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go, oh, think happy thoughts, think happy thoughts. That doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It has to
Because
be,
negative emotion is so powerful.
it is until light pierces it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing more light filled than scripture for me. I don't, affirmations are good,
Mm-hmm.
and we should absolutely speak good things
Yeah.
and positive things. But there's a verse that says it's the implanted word that will save your soul.
Yeah.
Like it's internalizing the things that God says about you, the truth that directly combats whatever that thing is that's entered your mind. So, like for self esteem things, um, I went through a period where I realized that I had self esteem issues and I didn't even know it, because
Yeah.
I've always been a pretty confident person. So, I didn't realize that I had issues with my self esteem until the Lord kind of pointed at it. He's like, you see
Mm-hmm.
that? And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't even know that was there.
Yeah.
And once he showed it to me, I couldn't unsee it. And then the thoughts started coming, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? And one of the verses I discovered was in Psalm 139, where it says, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knoweth right well. So my soul knows that I am made fearfully, wonderfully, like mysteriously. Like there's so much beauty to me that it can't even be fathomed or understood.
Yeah.
Just as a human, but also as a unique individual, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your work in me is marvelous. How does that stand up to the thought that you're not good enough?
Yeah.
Or that you're too much?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lyric from one of Ashley Hess's songs. She says,
We love Ashley.
we love Ashley. Can't wait for an acoustic version of every single song from her last album because, oh my gosh. But there's a song where she wrote a letter to herself. And um, there's a lyric that says, I know you believe them when they say you're much too much. But I've learned that too much just means you're more than enough.
Yeah.
And that's literally how the Lord explained it to me. Like, yeah, you're not too much. You're not enough. You're just enough.
Yeah.
For every situation that you enter, for everything you encounter. Everything you need is planted in you. It's scripted in your DNA. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Internalizing that has helped me so that when any thought that says that I'm not enough or I'm too much or I'm over the top or whatever the case, whatever I've struggled with, whenever it comes up, it's like that almost immediately follows.
Yeah.
I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And I say it out loud because you can't fight a thought with a thought.
Yeah.
So I say it out loud. You lying. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
And that usually will stop the thought in its tracks.
Mm-hmm.
If I allow it to start building in my imagination, what we build in our imagination becomes reality.
Yeah.
The word for imagination in Hebrew, it means mind work. It's like the workshop.
Oh,
of your mind.
I do some mind work.
It literally translates to like mind work.
Yeah.
It is what you build here before you manifest it here. And so if we don't cast down the projects that darkness starts to try and erect in our mind workshop, it becomes something that will manifest into the physical realm eventually, either through your actions or through the people that you allow to be around you or through the words that you say out loud about yourself. It will manifest. And so you have to catch it at the imagination stage. You have to catch it when it starts. That's why the verse says casting down imaginations. I'm casting down the work that started up here.
Right. The problem I think with a lot of people is that these negative thoughts can become addictive, just like anything else, and people get addicted to feeling bad and to self-pity. And so like you said, that mind work kind of gets just out of hand.
Oh yeah.
And
the scripture says that idle hands are the devil's workshop or whatever, like idle minds are the devil's workshop, something like that. But it's like, who does your workshop belong to?
Right.
Because it's there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that anything that happens out here is usually a product of what's going on in here.
Right. Yeah.
Like your imagination is such a powerful tool. Like when Joshua was receiving the mantle to take care of and lead the children of Israel after Moses went into the mountain and died, one of the things the Lord told him was meditate on the word, meditate on the Torah day and night. And that word meditate means to imagine.
Yeah.
It means to like take the word, take Torah, take words of truth and like chew on them, recite them, memorize them, and most of all, build them in your mind first.
Yeah.
Because if you build them up here, they'll just happen as a natural byproduct of what happens with imagination.
Yeah.
And Once I learned that, that even empowered me to start using scripture like the weapon it is.
Yeah.
Uh, because, like you said, those thoughts can get so addictive.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing about light, is that it can be addictive too.
Right. Yeah.
You know, when you start feeling lighter and you start feeling better, it's like, well, how do I keep this? You
Yeah.
know, like,
And it becomes contagious then,
right.
which is the goal.
Yeah. That's the goal. So, yeah, I think we all have the capacity for addiction,
Yeah.
because, okay, in Hebrew, everything has a light side and a dark side. There's
Mm-hmm.
two sides of the same coin usually. So addiction is bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you're addicted to the wrong things. But it's good if you're pointing that strong desire toward the creator of the universe.
Right.
Right.
Because addicted has such, it's almost pejorative, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like another synonym could be like an obsession. You know,
Mm-hmm.
are you obsessed with loving your family?
Right.
You know, are you obsessed with
Mm-hmm.
spreading joy? Are you obsessed with, you know, sharing kind words with people? Like,
Yeah.
that's not really an addiction,
Right.
you know?
It's like most things. Most things are like money.
Mm-hmm.
Money isn't good or bad.
Yeah.
It depends on the heart and the hands
Yeah.
that wield it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's the same thing with anything. Like lust.
Yeah.
We think lust is bad, but
Right.
lust just means strong desire.
Right.
So if you have a strong desire toward good, toward light, toward love, toward God,
Right.
then how can that be a bad thing?
Yeah. It's correctly harnessing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is the tricky stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of this rabbi I was reading, his explanation for like what some people will call the carnal nature, or like our flesh, our body, like our animal instinctual urges, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that this is just kind of like a flesh suit,
Yeah.
you know. And in Hebrew, a lot of times the word for flesh literally just means meat. Like,
Yeah.
like it's like the meat body.
Yeah.
Like, you
Right.
know, you're carrying around this meat. And one of the rabbinical sayings for a long time was that Torah was tavlin, is this word. And they would call it, the way they would translate it was a prescription. Like, so Torah is the cure for the carnal nature.
Mm-hmm.
But when he dove a little deeper into the meaning of the word, he's like, tavlin doesn't even mean that. It means seasoning.
Mm.
He said, you can season meat depending on what direction you want it to go in. If you want it to taste smoked, you season it a certain way. If you
Yeah.
want it to taste Mediterranean, then you use certain spices. You know, if you want it to be more Cajun, then it's the spices. And he
Yeah.
says, so if the word of God is tavlin, then really it is the perfect seasoning for our meat suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes us palatable to the world around
Mm.
us.
Yeah. It makes us medium rare.
Medium or well done.
Oh, I hope not.
Well done, thy good and faithful servant.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what that's what we want to hear. We want to
Different
hear
connotations. Yeah.
we want to hear well done.
Yeah. I just want to taste good. How do you instill, now that you're a mother, a parent, how do you instill with your child this idea of having good self-esteem and casting down negative thoughts? Because it is hard enough for adults
Mhm.
to grasp with this nuanced language, but how do you teach a kid, like, when he's sad about something, or when he's getting bullied at school, or when he feels like he can't quite grasp something? How do you quickly instill good self-esteem?
Oh,
I mean, how old's David?
he's 2, so
He's 2.
he's not quite
Yeah, you still have time to figure that out, but
right. Well, one of the things I do is I pray over him
hmm
every night.
Yeah.
I pray very specific things over him. And one of those things is that he will not, and he will not say things over himself that will manifest negatively in his life.
Mm.
I I'm also very diligent about correcting others when they insult him in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people do it all the time.
Sure.
Someone called him an imp one time. An imp is a small demon.
Right, right.
And I was like, no,
Who's calling a 2-year-old an imp?
it's, older people,
Yeah.
they say all kinds of things and it's not meant to be
Right.
negative, but we don't realize how children internalize
Yeah, and absorb so
and
much.
absorb so much, especially of the words that we say
Mm.
to them and
Yeah.
over them and about them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want him to see me as someone who will defend him no matter what,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, someone called him an imp, and I very respectfully, because they were an older person, I said, yeah, no,
We're not
no,
doing that.
we're not. That's not something that he's going to be called.
Yeah.
He's not an imp.
Mm-hmm.
He's a sweet little boy.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have anything to say back to me, but at least they know that maybe it's a bad idea to call children imps. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I want him to see me as somebody who will defend him and who's protective over his identity.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't let people just say anything to him
Yeah.
or about him. I'm usually pretty corrective when people do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I pray over him a lot when it comes to that kind of stuff. And if he does anything self-deprecating,
Mm-hmm.
which he doesn't really yet, but
Yeah.
he has a few times,
Uh-huh.
I try to tell him in terms that maybe a 2-year-old can understand. No, you're a beautiful person.
Yeah.
And like one topic is his hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to say to a few people, like, no, I want him to love his hair. I want him to love that part of himself and not be trying to like straighten or bleach or whatever people do to their hair because they don't like it. Like,
Yeah.
I want him to feel confident that his hair is curly, even though all his cousins and everybody around him either has really coarse hair or really straight hair.
Yeah.
And there's like, he's kind of caught in the in between.
Yeah.
People are always talking about how wild his hair is, or
Mhm.
oh, you got a lot of hair on your head, or like his hair is it's mentioned so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm always just like, well, we love your hair. Your hair is beautiful.
Mhm.
I think the people who have the charge over the child, the people who have not just the physical charge over them, but the spiritual jurisdiction over their well-being should, at every possible chance they get, affirm who the child is
Yeah.
and who they're capable of becoming
Mm-hmm.
and how they see the child.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do.
Right.
And I'm his defender physically and spiritually until he learns how to defend himself.
Yeah.
So because I stand in the gap for him jurisdictionally in the spirit, I declare things over him all the time. I
Yeah.
pray things over him all the time. And I combat things for
Mhm.
him
Yeah.
when others try to put their words on him.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And it's probably a good practice to do that with your partner too, in a certain respects.
That's where I got the practice.
Yeah.
People are very interesting, especially in the realm of like Branson shows and like the audience is like older people.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it's older generation, so they say a lot of negative things
They struggle.
in jest.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, that's not healthy, but okay, I understand. I understand to a degree what kind of fortitude they had to have in order to live in the time they lived and do
Sure.
the things that I mean, these are people who's went through wars and all the things, so they needed a certain kind of mental fortitude and strength and even callousness
Yeah.
to live the lives they lived and live them successfully. So I get it to a degree. But that audience is
Mm-hmm.
very negative
Mm-hmm.
and will just say things and laugh.
Right.
So people would say all kinds of things to me about Bryden.
Mm-hmm.
Bryden's the best person I've ever met. I haven't met anybody better than him.
Yeah.
And they would say things like, well, I don't know how you're putting up with him and
Yeah.
you should keep him in line.
Yeah.
And oh, goodness, I can't believe he finally got married. I thought no one would want him. And
Real quick, I hate that kind of language, which like
I hate it too.
I recently went to a wedding and
I think I saw your reel.
there's I don't know.
Is
Oh,
that the one where you're playing with the kids?
different wedding. There's a
Oh,
wedding every weekend.
that's true.
But I went to a close buddy's wedding and they had like this luncheon and it's kind of I don't know if it's like a Mormon culture thing or what, but there's kind of this culture where you have this luncheon and a lot of times people will go around and give little toasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like 80% of them are like denigrating the husband and like just lauding the wife and saying like you said, like you got to put up with this guy for the rest of your life, or like you better, people would say like make sure you buy a good couch because you'll be sleeping on it, and just like all this like, and like you said, it's like kind of in jest, but it's
They
like
always say it like it's a joke,
yeah, but I'm like
but that's not funny to me.
no, and to me I'm thinking maybe you guys,
Right.
maybe
That's not the relationship I'm trying to build.
yeah,
And
maybe
I have always just, with a smile,
Mhm.
been like, he's literally the best person I've ever met. That's not a problem.
Right.
But thanks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just, and they never really know what to say to that. Oh, well, I'm just kidding. Well, maybe you should just say something nice instead of
Projecting your
literally
issues.
projecting your own issue. Right. But like, it just feels like am I supposed to stand by while you degrade the person I love most in the
Yeah.
world? I'm supposed to laugh at that. That's
Yeah.
how this is supposed to work.
Right.
I don't subscribe to that. And I know I'm deep in all the things, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I will, as one of the things that I think he noticed, that I won't do that.
Yeah.
And I don't care who it is.
I think it's just such a bad practice, even if it's kind
terrible.
of, even if you're kind of joking, and vice versa too, where a lot of guys, especially in their friend group, it's kind of like
Your old
culturally,
ball and chain.
yeah, your ball and chain, or like, oh, the wife's calling or whatever, and it's like, okay, maybe. I don't know, maybe you feel like you're in a ball and chain, but I hope that's not my situation.
Right. Well, that's the thing too about waiting to get married,
Mhm.
waiting till you know yourself.
Yeah, which I've done a very good job at.
You know your mind very well.
Yeah. Well, I've done a good job of waiting. Yeah.
You have done a good job of waiting. But in that waiting, you learn yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just know what you like, what you don't like, and certain things. I heard you say on another podcast episode that I think you did with Jake, like there's just certain stuff that I'm not okay with that I might have been okay with when I was younger, but now I'm like, yeah, no.
Mhm.
And I think that plays a really big part in how you pick a partner and how your life develops with that person,
Mhm.
because most of the time whoever you're with, if you've waited, they've waited. You know what I mean? Usually you're with somebody who will at least match you to a degree intellectually and that kind of
Mhm.
thing. And it's just a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Like I know myself. I already know who I am. I know who I am apart from my husband because I
Mhm.
took the time to learn that.
Yeah.
And he did too.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of the little squabbly things that don't happen
Right.
with us because we can just come to each other and say, hey, I think you stepped on a landmine
Yeah.
and you did this, you said this. I know that that's probably not what you meant, but that's what happened. This is a sensitive area for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
You just communicate really early.
right. Instead of yelling about something that's not even the problem,
Mhm.
slamming doors or sleeping on couches, like
Yeah.
stuff that people who aren't emotionally mature do.
You know what I've always said? I've always said, if for some reason, who knows what happens, my wife says, "You're sleeping on the couch tonight," I'm gonna say, "I'm sleeping in our bed. If you're so upset with me, like, let's hash it out." You know?
My dad was like that
Yeah.
from day one. He's like, "You're not putting me out of my own bed. I'm
Yeah.
sleeping in this bed. You can be mad over there
Right.
and we'll talk about it in the morning."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just never really understood that anyway. Like, well, how you gonna put somebody out of a bed that they help pay for? Like, what? That's
Well,
dumb.
you're in such a sour mood, you can't share a bed with the love of your life.
Right. It's like you being mad at me about this very temporal, very fleeting thing.
Yeah.
What? I have to go sleep. I have to go mess up my back because
Right.
you.
Right. And you're going to pay for the chiropractor bills.
Oh man. Yeah, so you're right. It is a bit of projecting, I
Hmm.
think,
Yeah.
on their part. Because, I see all those memes that are like, oh, we come from the generation of something's broken, you fix it,
Hmm.
instead of throwing it away,
Yeah.
which absolutely. But also, are you actually fixing it? Or is this just like
Yeah. You just don't
you
want
just
to
jerry
pay
rigged
for, you
it
just don't want
and
to
you
pay
don't
for a
want to
divorce
actually pay
lawyer.
for like or you've been together so long that it doesn't make sense for you guys to separate. Like, what is it
But
really?
a lot of people in relationships that I don't admire, they act like, hey, that's just how life is.
Mm-hmm.
That's how marriage is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you'll understand when you get married. But then I meet people like you and Bryden, or, you know, some friends I have that I'm like, well, that's funny. Their marriage doesn't seem like that. And it's because, and it doesn't mean you guys don't have problems and disagreements, but it's
Which are very
because,
few and far between.
yeah, but you're such good communicators that it never really, you know,
I mean, it's not always that because I told you he reads my mind, which
yeah.
it's not great because
Mm-hmm.
he spoiled me.
Yeah.
So when he doesn't read my mind, I'm like, well, you don't know what's wrong with me. He's like, wait, you didn't tell me. It's like, the Lord just had to tell me multiple times, like, just because he can read your mind doesn't mean
He always
he
does.
has to.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't excuse you from adult communication, okay?
Yeah.
But it certainly feels like that sometimes. Like, you don't know what's wrong. He's like, nope. I'm sorry, I didn't get the frequency this time.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, that's such a slippery slope. Like there's so much to that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it starts with people just not really knowing
Yeah.
themselves. Because if you knew yourself, then maybe you would pick a different partner than
Yeah.
the one you
And I think
picked.
a lot of people just haven't done the work with themselves, because a lot of couples I see that I think are really unhappy, I'm like, I don't think you picked the wrong people. I think you'd be unhappy with anyone just because you're
Mm,
unhappy as is.
preach.
You know?
Preach. Yeah. That's also very
You know, some
true.
people are very um they're very confrontational. They're very argumentative, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, guess what? That's going to be tough with anyone, you know?
Mm-hmm. Ain't nobody finna sit around
Or or
and
you,
screaming at them all the time. Ain't nobody got time for that.
or you find somebody that is really docile and will take it, but then they're going to be resentful the whole time. And
Mm-hmm.
so, anyway, okay, a couple questions and we'll wrap up. Okay, I want you to picture a time in your life where you were just going through it more than any time in your life. It was the hardest period of your life, and what I want you to do is tell me what you wish like you could have told yourself back then, that you, with some time since that's happened, you know, you've figured out maybe how to deal with that, or how to synthesize something. But in the time, you're like, man, I wish I could have had that wisdom that I have now.
Hmm. I have two instances in my head. I'm trying to decide which one impacted me the most. I can only think of one time in my life that I wanted to die. And it wasn't like one day,
A period.
it was several months. I'd gotten really sick and the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. And I lost my voice. And they tried all different kinds of medicine on me. I tried to throw myself in oncoming traffic once on a very busy street. And the doctors thought that I had had some kind of mental breakdown. And so they tried to put me into a mental hospital and take my parents' rights from when I was 19. So, but I was on my parents' insurance. So they were like, we're paying these bills. You're not about to put her away. My mom is, I don't even know my mom, but
I've met her once, but
she's already formidable. She's 5'2", but her personality is 6'5".
yeah.
You know, she's one of those people that fills a room
Mm-hmm.
and she becomes a lioness when it comes to her kids.
Yeah.
And the entire time I had this fever that nobody could explain. So she's like, I don't know why I have to tell you medical professionals that the presence of a fever usually means some kind of virus, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's causing this. My brain was basically cooking. I had a fever of like 100. One time it spiked to 105. And they would be able to get it down a little bit, but it was constantly rising.
Yeah.
I couldn't find a combination of antibiotics that would work.
So you're delirious.
Yeah. There's at least a week of my life that I still don't remember. It's gone.
Yeah.
And I asked my family to just leave me alone and let me die. Because I didn't want to be in the hospital. I don't want them poking me anymore. And I was just tired. And I think the first time I felt hope was when I heard a specific song. So even to this day, when I hear that song, it brings me back to that place. But I think I was most hopeless when I realized that my voice was gone.
Yeah. Because you felt like that was your everything, your identity, your purpose.
Right. When I've been singing since I was 18 months old. And I thought, if I don't have my voice, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I think one of the things that I would tell that girl is that God is not mad at you. You know? That he didn't do this. And that even though he allowed it, he will get glory from it. And that your voice is not who you are, just one of the things you can do. I put so much into that I didn't know who I was without it.
Yeah.
And I think even just losing it was probably a little less than 6 months. Losing it for that period of time taught me that I needed to know myself for real
Mm-hmm.
and not just what I could do.
Yeah.
And that started me on the journey of learning who I really was.
Hmm.
Still don't entirely know who I
Right.
really am, you know, because who I am and who I've become are two different things.
Yeah. And you're always evolving.
Right. And hopefully evolving toward who I really am.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think I would just encourage that girl that God's not mad at you. And your voice is not the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
That you are more than that. Even now, I struggle with that. It's like, well, if it's not the only thing I can do, how am I supposed to do all this other stuff?
Yeah.
You know, how do I juggle that? How do I manage that?
Yeah.
How do I be everything
Hmm.
I am?
Yeah.
There's a line in Pride and Prejudice where she said, such a woman would be a fearsome thing to behold.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think who I really am scares me
Yeah.
to some degree.
The rest of the iceberg.
Yeah. It's a little scary,
Yeah.
you know. The Lord gave me a glimpse of myself the way he sees me, and it scared me more than the way I see myself.
Yeah.
He said the things that scare you about you are the things I love the most.
That's cool.
And I was like, well, that's nice, but
Yeah.
that's you gotta admit that's a little
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah. Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Okay, my last question I always ask people is if you could ask me one question as we turn the tables a little bit and you're the podcaster now. And it's a little harder when you don't know me that well. We don't have a ton of interactions, but yeah, what do you got for me?
I have two that come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Uh why of stone and clay? Where does
Um,
that come from?
I kind of wanted it to be like a little bit cryptic and a little bit poetic. But for me, it's this idea that everything in your life is sort of like stone or clay. Like sometimes things are moldable and they're unfinished, and then sometimes things are permanent
Hmm.
and everlasting. And but also stone can break. And so yeah, it's just this reminder that to kind of not take life too seriously or yourself too seriously.
Hmm.
Um, and that some things that you think are clay are actually stone, and some things that you think are stone are actually clay.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because I kind of want the whole theme of the podcast to just be about life and just about what it
Hmm.
means to be human. And some
Hmm.
episodes will talk way more about God, and some episodes will talk way more about mental illness or maybe domestic abuse or maybe just someone's passions and creativity. And so I want it to be kind of just all encompassing on the human experience, which I think,
Hmm.
yeah.
What do you think it means to be human?
Um, I think I like have different opinions depending on the day, you know? But I think for me, I won't say like that I think there's like an absolute truth on what that means, but I think for me, um, without digging into like dogma, like for me to be human is to love. Like I don't think there's anything more important or anything past that. And whether that's your love with God, your love of your family, your love of yourself, like I think it's all encompassing. I think life is about loving, being human is about loving, and if it's not, I think you're missing the boat. What's it about? Is it about gathering wealth? Is it about being right? Is it about being smarter than somebody? Is it about just, people always talk about, I just want to be happy. And it's like, okay, but what does that mean? What does that entail?
Mm-hmm.
Because happiness is such a fleeting emotion. And so it's like, to me, being human isn't about being happy, it's about being fulfilled. And I personally don't know how you can be fulfilled if you don't have love in your life. So,
That's good. I think humanity is a higher calling than we think it is.
yeah, I think it's a sacred calling.
Yeah. It's definitely not just an excuse to sin,
Yeah,
which is what we often use it for.
right.
I'm only human.
Right.
Right. We use it as like an umbrella explanation for our limitations.
Yeah,
The limitations that we place on ourselves.
yeah,
You know? And I think it's such a high calling.
yeah.
It's such a, yeah. And you can see that in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He could do all that stuff. I always say that he wasn't doing God things when he was here. He did human things.
Yeah.
He just did them really well.
Yeah, he did them godlike. Yeah.
Which is what he just came to show us what this earth suit is capable of.
Yeah.
This
meat bag.
This, this meat suit. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so one last question. If the woman who is meant to be your wife were to come along tomorrow, would you be ready for her?
I want to say like for sure. But I also think there's not a black and white, I'm ready and I'm not ready, right? I think you move towards being ready, and then I think here's the real truth. I think when it's the right person, all of a sudden you feel ready. I think when it's the wrong person, you have every reason in your mind to say you're not ready. But when it's the right person, all of a sudden the stars kind of align and you're like, well, maybe I'm not ready financially, or maybe I'm not ready. There's still some emotional work I want to do, or maybe, I wish I was further along in my career. But it's like with the right person, you're like, well, I'll do anything to make sure the timing is right. I'll make the timing right. And so that's how I feel. I feel like whatever's going on, I could be hit with catastrophe tomorrow, but I think with the right person, I will make it the right timing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that answer. I ask guys that all the time, specifically because I think there needs to be an understanding of the role of a husband in order to really nurture the kind of relationship that most people want.
Yeah.
Husbands don't usually understand how much control they have over that.
Yeah.
They usually don't understand the title husband comes from husbandry, which is an explanation of cultivation.
Yeah.
And that your wife is the fertile ground you are meant to plant yourself in that will make you the better person that you were always meant to be.
Right.
And she can't be that if she's not cultivated to be that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think when we are about the business of becoming a wife before we receive a husband, and becoming a husband before we receive a wife, I think that really prepares our hearts to do the job that comes with the title.
Yeah.
So I always ask guys that question. I ask people that question.
Yeah.
Quite often, because a lot of times we fixate on that thing, and we don't even know what the job entails.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'll just figure it out when I get here.
Right.
But the Lord, Brett always says, nature abhors a vacuum. The Lord fills the space that is readied for it to be filled.
Yeah.
Jesus turn water into wine, he didn't create the jars first. They were already there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, when you give him a space to fill, he fills it.
Right.
And it's like, I think, I think a lot of times we think, well, when I get that thing, that's when I'll learn how to,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
whatever it is, whatever
Mhm.
the thing is that we're fixated on.
Yeah.
And that's not usually how it works.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
yeah. I mean, I also asked that question because the Lord asked me that
Yeah.
when I was like, you know, we dated for 5 years. So I'm like, long distance.
Yeah.
One day I was in prayer on my knees before the Lord, and I'm like, why is this taking so long?
Yeah.
You know, he hasn't proposed yet, and you know, should I just break up with him or what? I don't know what to do. And the Lord literally said to me, if he were to propose to you tomorrow, would you be ready?
Yeah.
And I was like, touche.
You're like, I'm ready for the ring.
Right. But I knew what he was asking, and I
Yeah.
was not
Yeah,
ready.
yeah.
And he's like, you know, that's kind of not your job to be worried about.
Yeah.
Your job
It's
is
none of your business.
none of your business. Yeah. Your job is you.
Yeah.
You let me handle him. You let me handle me. Your
Yeah.
job is you. And it put things into perspective for me, and it helped me focus, you know,
Yeah.
on becoming the best version of myself that I could be by the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you're never going to be the best version of yourself because you're
Yeah.
constantly becoming. But man, that gave me some perspective.
Yeah. Well, Mina, you're awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So are you.
This was a somewhat of a selfish episode because I just wanted to pick your brain and talk to you a little bit more. You know, you're somebody that's been more of an acquaintance.
Mhm.
And I've heard you talk a lot in group settings, but it was so fun to just have a little one-on-one time.
Yeah. It was great.
Awesome.
Thank you for having
Okay,
me.
yeah, of course. And if people want to find your music, it's just Mina Thomas Brett.
Yep. Mina Thomas Brett. Anywhere you get your music,
Mm-hmm.
you can go look me up. I've got a couple singles out. I'll be releasing another one soon. And of course, we've released music with The King Will Come.
Yeah.
So you can look us up. We've released several singles. I think it's been 4 so far.
Yeah.
And we're gearing up to release a lot more. So you can follow The King Will Come. You can follow Mina Thomas Brett.
Awesome. Okay. You're the best. Okay.
Thank you. You're the best, church.